Parag is now joining us. Parag, hi, good morning. Can you just show us around what's happening on the ground in Ayodhya?
बिल्कुल गुड मॉर्निंग। और अयोध्या जो कि अद्भुत से अद्वितीय बन रही है, सजकर पूरी तरह से भगवान राम के स्वागत के लिए तैयार है और उत्साह बिल्कुल भी लोगों का यहाँ पर कम नहीं हो रहा है। सबसे खास बात यह है, हम सबसे पहले सजावट की बात करेंगे। अयोध्या जगमग इस वक्त हो रही है। 2000 कुंटल फूलों से अयोध्या को सजाया गया है और मेरे पीछे जो रास्ता इस वक्त आप देख रहे हैं, ये जो रास्ता है ये राम जन्मभूमि पथ की तरफ जाता है। ये राम जन्मभूमि पथ है। इससे अंदर आप जाएंगे तो आप हनुमानगढ़ी यानी कि भक्ति पथ पर जा सकते हैं और उसके बाद आप राम पथ पर प्रभु श्री राम के दर्शन करने के लिए जा सकते हैं। और ज़रा सा अगर आप बाईं ओर इसके देखेंगे तो ये धर्म पथ है। सूर्य स्तंभ आपको नज़र आ रही होंगे। यहाँ सजावट ज़रा देखिए, पूरे मार्ग को फूलों की लड़ियों से सजा दिया गया है और जो व्यवस्थाएं हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा मुस्तैद हैं, जो कि आज हज़ारों वीवीआईपी मेहमान पहुंचने जा रही हैं और उनकी सुरक्षा के लिए जो व्यवस्था है वो चाक चौबंद कर दी गई है। क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का आज कार्यक्रम है, उनको आना है, मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ आएंगे। इसके साथ ही जो सुरक्षा है उसकी अगर हम बात करें तो 10,000 सीसीटीवी से निगरानी अयोध्या में रखी जानी है। 7 लेयर की सुरक्षा रहेगी। ब्लैक कैट कमांडो तैनात हो गए हैं। एआई कैमरों से नज़र रखी जाएगी। इसके साथ ही बख्तरबंद गाड़ियां भी तैयार हो गई हैं। सीसीटीवी कैमरों से नज़र रखी जा रही है। कोई भी असामाजिक गतिविधि अयोध्या के अंदर ना हो, इसको लेकर प्रशासन पूरी तरह से तैयार है। कोई भी रिस्क नहीं लेना चाहता है, क्योंकि हज़ारों वीवीआईपी मेहमान आज के इस खास मौके पर अयोध्या पहुंच रहे हैं। और 22 जनवरी की ये तारीख, जिसका लंबे वर्षों से इंतज़ार, लंबे वक्त से इंतज़ार किया जा रहा था, वर्षों से इंतज़ार किया जा रहा था, आखिरकार वो दिन, वो घड़ी आ चुकी है। और जब 22 तारीख आ गई है तो लोगों का उत्साह जो है वो भी बढ़ चढ़कर बोल रहा है। लगातार पिछले कई दिनों से हम तस्वीरें अयोध्या की अपने दर्शकों को दिखा रही हैं। वो तस्वीरें बताती हैं, दर्शक बताते हैं कि दरअसल ये जो नज़ारा इस वक्त कलयुग की अयोध्या का है, ये त्रेता युग जैसा नज़र आता है। भगवान राम का स्वागत बड़े हर्ष और उल्लास के साथ लोग करना चाहते हैं और उसी का ये नतीजा है कि लोगों का जो उत्साह अयोध्या या भगवान राम के प्रति है वो और भी ज़्यादा पिछले कुछ दिनों में नज़र आया है। आज की अगर हम बात करें तो पूरी अयोध्या को जगमग किया जा रहा है, बेहतरीन लाइटिंग की जा रही है, फूलों से सजाया जा रहा है, सफाई व्यवस्था पूरी तरह से यहाँ पर कर ली गई है और जो मेहमान आ रहे हैं उनके स्वागत की तैयारियाँ भी कर ली गई हैं। और आज जब खास मौका प्राण प्रतिष्ठा की रामलीला का है तो वाकई में जो अयोध्या की तैयारियां हैं वो ये बता रही हैं कि प्रभु राम का स्वागत करने के लिए अयोध्या पूरी तरह से तैयार है। एक बार ज़रा तस्वीरें अपने कैमरा सहयोगी को मैं कहूँगा दिखाएं। और ये जो पूरा एक द्वार बनाया गया है, जब आप राम जन्मभूमि के लिए एंटर करते हैं तो यहाँ पर एक द्वार बनाया गया है। उस द्वार को फूलों से सजाया गया है और यहाँ पर सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेज हैं। यहाँ पर देखिए पुलिस के जवान हैं। कोई भी व्यक्ति अगर अंदर दाखिल होने की कोशिश करता है, कोई भी वाहन अंदर दाखिल होने की कोशिश करता है तो पहले उनसे पूछा जाता है कि आप अंदर क्यों जा रहे हैं। क्योंकि कल ही यहाँ पर अनाउंसमेंट कर दिया गया था कि अगर आपके पास कोई भी निमंत्रण पत्र नहीं है, आपके पास अगर निमंत्रण इस कार्यक्रम का नहीं है तो आप अयोध्या से चले जाइए, आप अयोध्या में मत रुकिए। और अगर आपके पास कोई ऑथेंटिक पास है तभी आप यहाँ पर रुक पाएंगे। तो सुरक्षा में किसी भी तरह का कोई रिस्क सुरक्षा एजेंसियां जो हैं वो नहीं लेना चाहती हैं। और एटीएस के कमांडो ने पूरी अयोध्या में मोर्चा संभाल लिया है। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और ड्रोन सिस्टम के जरिए निगरानी रखी जा रही है। ये कमांडो इस वक्त आप देख रहे हैं, ये द्रुत कार्यबल की गाड़ी इस वक्त वाहन आपको नज़र आ रहा है। यहाँ पर सीआरपी के जवान जो हैं वो तैयार हैं। दूर दूर तक नज़र अयोध्या में रखी जा रही है। किसी तरह से कोई भी चूक सुरक्षा में ना हो, कोई भी आतंकी गतिविधि ना हो, किसी भी तरह से कोई भी असामाजिक तत्व अयोध्या की खुशहाली, अयोध्या की शांति और इस माहौल को भंग करने की कोशिश ना करें, इससे भी नज़र रखी जा रही है। 12 एंटी ड्रोन सिस्टम के माध्यम से रेड और जो येलो जोन है उनको सुरक्षित किया गया है। रेड और येलो जोन की अगर हम बात करें तो यहाँ पर जो व्यवस्था है वो और ज़्यादा मुस्तैद की जा रही है, उनको सुरक्षित किया गया है। 5 किलोमीटर का एक दायरा है जिसको सेट किया गया है। 5 किलोमीटर की रेडियस में उड़ने वाले किसी भी ड्रोन को लोकेट कर निष्क्रिय कर दिया जाएगा। तो सजावट भी पूरी तरह से तैयार है, सुरक्षा व्यवस्था भी पूरी तरह से मुस्तैद है। पुलिस के जवान, लोकल पुलिस की बात करें या फिर हम बाकी सुरक्षा एजेंसीज की बात करें, पूरी तरह से इस आयोजन को सफल बनाने के लिए मुस्तैद हो गई है।
All right, Parag, just stay with us just for people. Let's just stay on this shot. That's the live shot of the Ram temple this morning as we build up towards the Pran Pratistha. Ladies and gentlemen, just for maybe for a renewal of what is actually here, what are you seeing? So, there are about 250 columns that have been built around the temple. You can see the at the very back of the temple, as you can see, it builds. So this is the front side of the temple. You're starting from the ground floor, and the Jagati, which is the staircase, is at the front of the temple here. So it starts at the lower level and builds itself up. There are three mandaps that are, you can see the first dome on the extreme right of your screens. That is the first, then the second, then the third. Then, of course, right at the back end of this, there is something called the Paradakshina Path, okay, which is for people who want to go around the temple. At the very back, the pointed structure of the pointed dome, that is you can see a flag flying on the top, okay. That part is yet to be completed. That's going to be the shikhar of the temple that is once is actually built and is absolutely finished. So I mentioned the various mandaps. So there's a Kirtan mandap where the Kirtans are going to take place, the Kudu mandap, the Nritya mandap, the Rang mandap, and the Prarthana mandap. Okay. So you can see the mandaps go in sequence and then they go left to right as the temple spreads out from the narrowness of it. The total from front to back is about 360 feet long. The height at the top where the Dhwaj is flying is 360 feet. So it is high, but it's not unimaginably high, 360 feet. There is the width of the temple, which is from left to right on this screen, is about 250 feet. There are two usable floors. So it's obviously built on a raised platform. So there's a ground floor, high ceilings, okay, and then there is a second floor as well. And primarily the ground floor is what is going to be open to the public for the darshan that is going to take place. The stone from which the temple is built mostly has come from Bharatpur. You know, Bharatpur is in Rajasthan, so it's the pink sandstone of Rajasthan. It also has marble flooring, and majority of the temple has been built in stone. There are no iron nails and no steel beams that have been put into the temple for reasons of piety, and the entire design of the structure has been put together with the basis of keeping those construction methodologies in mind. Of course, a stone, as we know in history, has the ability to last for a very, very long time. Can be hundreds of years, can be thousands of years. The entire temple itself is not complete, and the temple site is not complete. As you know, there is the scaffolding has not been removed, but at the back side of the temple there is still a bit of scaffolding where they're completing the shikhar. And there are going to be different ceremonies over the course of the next few weeks as various aspects are completed. But the main part where the murti has been installed is complete. And the chairs that you're seeing on your screens, about a few thousand, can be 9,000 to 10,000 people who are gathering, who are invited to sit on those chairs. It's going to be rather cold, as you can imagine, in North India. But people are going to forget that very rapidly as the festivities, and that's what it is, a festivity begins. Let me hop back across to Sumit and I guess, Sumit, I'm guessing you had a chance to see see this. You know, in terms of just what we have built, in terms of another temple here, what does now Ayodhya become? How do we now reimagine it? Because let's face it, 10, 20 years ago, if we thought of Mathura and Kashi and Ayodhya, they weren't representing modern India per se. Okay, modern India was in Cyber City in Hyderabad and in Bangalore and in Mumbai and in Gurgaon, okay, where, you know, IT was being built and, you know, India was building its skyscrapers and its new roads and its bridges. And a young generation would be working there. They will be aspiring to go abroad. It probably won't come into their minds that, you know, the holidays in Goa you wouldn't think of it that, oh, I need to go to Mathura or Kashi or Ayodhya. So how is all this being reimagined? I'm just curious how you think young people are going to take this.
I think Rishabh recently one of my friends called me from, he had been to Kashi Vishwanath. He called me there and he told me, Sumit bhai, you want to see what is happening here? I say, yeah, you show me. And he said that there are 1 lakh people in Ganga Aarti. When did you come here? I said about 2.5 years back. And there around 20,000 were this time. He said, Sumit bhai, the biggest thing is that 80 to 90% of them are youth. They are this 18, 25, 23, 24, 25, and they have no Congress, no BJP, no SP, BSP. They are simply youth. They are coming here and they are identifying themselves with the culture. So when you have 80 to 90% of the youth in a Ganga Aarti or in a Brahmakund in Haridwarji, that makes the change it has happened, wherein youth are not only relating to Goa or Amsterdam or France, they are relating to this. The example is, we have discussed this, Rishabh. If you look at, for example, France, 4.4 crore tourists in a year, number one visited place. Now, Kashi Vishwanath is already had 13 crore people. We have done 4 times and done the number of people that visit France. And Ayodhya ji, with the infrastructure which we have built, which is world class, the whole city, not only the Bhagwan Shri Ram temple, the whole city of Ayodhya ji, with 30,000 or 35,000 crores of investments and all, we will be expecting at least 20 crore Indians and foreigners to visit there in a year. So we are gearing up to that thing where we are showing the world we have the capability to host the maximum number of footfall in the world. It is many times higher than Makkah. It is many times higher than Vatican, because I think Makkah is around a few million and Vatican is 6.6 million at the peak. So we will be crossing it many folds. We are building infrastructure for that. There'll be the Sanatan economy and Sanatan tourism as a concept which will prevail, and the culture will be open to the world. We want youngsters to go to
Okay,
Goa.
so let me rephrase the question and let me get Group Captain Jha. Let me rephrase the question. Group Captain Jha, my grandfather used to do yoga every morning, and it kept him in good spirits till the end of his life. But as a young person, if you told me 20 years ago yoga, and you would have thought, yeah, this is something that older people do in ashrams, okay, post-retirement. Today is the coolest thing in the world. I mean, you can go to the chicest places and yoga studios and yoga clothes designing and yoga mat designing. It's happening everywhere in the world, from New Zealand to New York. Is the coolest thing, right? So there is a rediscovery and a reimagination from the archaic. It's like, things come back into fashion. A double-breasted suit might be out of fashion now, but it might come back into fashion a few years from now. So it's very much in vogue. So now you take it forward, if I was meeting my friends, let's say 10 years ago, we wouldn't be thinking, oh, let's spend the evening watching a Kuchipudi dance performance. We wouldn't have thought of it as a fun thing to do. So when we are talking about revivalism of Indian art, you've got it all. You've got Indian music. I mean, I've grown up listening to rock music, not necessarily the Veena, but that is coming back now. So when we talk about revivalism and, it becomes cool, it becomes fun, it becomes something to celebrate, not something considered archaic. How far down the road do we see these things happening?
Actually, these are the traditions of times. As the time changes, the practices of human, be it old, be it youth, be it women, it will continue changing. That's the truth of the times. It will continue changing. But the faith that we are talking right now of, we have to have that faith within us that we are one of the greatest race, if not the greatest. And there is one thing what comes to my mind. About 8, 9 years or 10 years back, in our Indian Parliament, there was a young, parliamentarian who stood up and he said, "I am a Muslim and I am a proud Indian." At that time, no one from the Hindu community had the guts or the possibility of getting up and saying that I'm a proud Hindu. That is the type of separation that we have been going through. It's through ages. It's not now. It had started long back, 11th century, 12th century. And from there, when you have that psyche of separation, you have been suppressed, your freedom had been curtailed, your religious approach, your faith have been wounded. That is the type of thing that we see. And unfortunately, in free India, the spiritual revival of the Sanatanis were put under the wrap. Unfortunately, whosoever was the administrator, I would not like to name any single person, but that is the tradition, and that continues even today. So, look, such a grand revival, as Sumit said, bloodless uh, 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 revival of the entire humanity. About we can say at least 100 crores is happening today. There are some of the Sanatanis who feel shy of it, who would not like to go in spite of being invited for this function. And that would have been, something that his children, his entire generation would have said that, yes, my father had gone for this reincarnation Pran Pratistha sort of thing for Lord Brahma. They are not. So they are divisions. But I hope
Okay.
division is
No, no,
somehow.
like I said, I'm trying to ask a larger question here, right? Because I don't know it. You can't know it for sure also. It'll have to play out, right? But I gave the example of yoga, okay? Somebody can tell you that putting haldi on your face is good for you, okay? Is good for your skin. You do it in Indian weddings. The reason you do it as a ceremony is because it's supposed to be good for your skin, right? So now I can tell you that in the most happening places in London, having a turmeric infused chai tea is the coolest thing you can do right now. So it's a rediscovery taking place, right? For a new generation, not just Indians. For a new generation going, you know what? Actually, there are brands emerging that are taking all your nuskas and they're making them very relatable to a modern world. So let me get General Sudhakar back into this. General Sudhakar, I took the example of yoga, but in the revivalism, in the Renaissance, in the Punarjagaran, now you're seeing of Indian sculpture, of Indian art, of Indian music, of Indian dance. You have it all for sure, but it's been considered archaic and passé, and not, if it's not westernized, therefore it's not cool. Do we see then a little bit of renewal of confidence in embracing all of this? If there's a, let's say if you go to school and you want to play the veena instead of the guitar, that's a good way of giving the example.
Absolutely, Rishabh. You have actually hit the nail on its head. Time has come that we need to reassert our identity and also our practices, the belief system. Because if you allow me, let me just go back in this morning conversation. There are two issues which I feel is important, which have got unanswered. One is the question which you asked, what was the delay then if we have done it today? Why it couldn't be done now 40 years or 30 years or 20 years back? I think this needs to be answered. The answer that comes to my mind, Rishabh, is that India as an independent nation state, we are grappling with multiple problems. We somehow, the biggest challenge, go to the corporate or military or any hierarchy, the biggest challenge in management of situation today is the identification of the correct problem. To me, it doesn't appear, it is a fact of life in India that so far in 76 years, we couldn't identify the real core issue or the challenge of India. India as a nation state, we have not been able to assert and reclaim its identity. And the present dispensation deserves to be given credit that they have been able to identify an issue which will embolden the self-confidence of every citizen. I was in San Francisco, San Jose the other day. When an Indian is walking across, I was amazed to see the Californian police standing up and saluting. I stopped there and asked him, why are you saluting me? I am not from US. He said, no, aren't you an Indian? Yes, we are not saluting you. We are saluting the self-confidence of India. It happened just about 5-6 months back. Similarly, when I was there in Norway, Sweden, Finland, a month and a half back, there is a sea change. Though India is being perceived and seen in a different light. So therefore, when you talk about the culture, Rishabh, that it's about
Okay,
time.
I'm
Will
going to
it
give you
come
some very
out?
basic examples to anybody watching this broadcast. Okay, so there's a photograph on the right of your screens. Let's blow it up. I'm told this photograph is from inside the Ram temple of the various ceremonies that are going on in the build-up to the Pran Pratistha. Can we take the right photograph on your screen? I want to make a quick point. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing in the copper gadas they're holding, okay, vessels that they're holding, okay, you're seeing leaves, okay. Now have a look at this photograph. You can see that as the water is being poured on this miniature murti at the bottom, so they're holding leaves in their hands, okay. Now, to the best of my knowledge, some of them, if not all of them, will be mango leaves, okay. Now I'm going to make an example here. Sumit, today when let's say you and I attend an award ceremony wherever we go, okay, and you go to the Oscars or you go to an Indian award ceremony, it doesn't make a difference, okay. It will be symbolized with the laurel wreath. You win your laurel wreath. The laurel wreath, of course, comes from a Roman tradition, perhaps even a Greek Macedonian tradition, but we all know that Julius Caesar wore a laurel wreath. So if you achieved something nice in life, you have a laurel wreath. So this is what we identify it, that's an award, okay. Now the other day I was sitting with my designer and designing some posters for an award ceremony. I said, what is the Indian symbolism? And the Indian symbolism is actually, if you think about in Tyohar, you put these leaves on your darwaza, okay, and they'll probably be mango leaves, okay. Now if I put mango leaves, will I be recognized that this is actually an award? This is the example that I'm making, because you're so used to recognizing, Sumit, the laurel wreath, you've forgotten that you had your own, but you just lost it to somebody else's.
The thing is that when this new confident India is emerging as the third biggest economy, is emerging as the third biggest military power, is emerging 1, 2, 3 in many sectors in the world, when we are contributing 40% of the food population, we have a very assertive leadership which has given a new confidence to India, where the foreign policy is not dictated by anybody, Indian interests are taking on, when we have the capability to host and handle the biggest challenges and maneuver them through. So that thing of Indianness is back. What you rightly said, when people will start learning Veena than a guitar, we'll see it will happen. It happened on the ground. When I see 80,000 youth in Kashi Vishwanath ji doing Ganga Aarti, I've seen it has happened in the ground. When I see 30 crore people visiting Kashi Vishwanath ji, I think something has changed on the ground. When we see this identification of the Indianness, you see these narrow jackets, what we call them, and whatever. You see these narrow jackets are so prevalent. When we see kurta pajama sales hitting all-time high. When we say Khadi, which was a dead industry, has become, a very money-making machine. When we know Amul has a sale of 72,000 crores and being a cooperative is the #1 FMCG brand of India, we think something being Indian, something being Bharatiya is what we have identified with. Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, vocal for local. These things have made a revolution, and it is the political will that has changed it. And if you look at Bhagwan Sri Ram temple, kahin ka patthar, kahin ka marble, kahin ki lagdi, kahin ka cement, and the artisans from Tamil Nadu, some from Hyderabad, the water from 155 rivers, people from Nepal, people from all walks of life getting together and making this happen. That oneness of India, that confidence of India, that confidence of Sanatani is going to bring down the sky.
Just to change the flavor,
Yeah.
Sumit, I was watching this Indian comedian, okay, and he does a lovely skit, and he says, okay, 50 years ago, we are putting matti on our face, okay, and then all these companies come and tell us that no, you need to put this soap, you need to put this cream, this is better for you. Then they come and tell us, no, we've got a better soap, we've got a better cream. Then they say, no, actually we've got organic soap, organic cream. And then they come and tell you, why do you put all these chemicals on your face? You should put matti, which we were doing anyway 50 years ago. So that's exactly it's a bit funny, but it's exactly laughable cycle. Let me get Group Captain Jha into this. Group Captain Jha, let me just give you another example for people watching this broadcast, okay? So as we are watching the Ram temple, okay, you are seeing two symbols. Can you take the left visuals on our screens? And I just want to point out something here. Okay, so let's put the temple visuals. Okay, so what will you see? Now, as an Indian, you are very familiar with these symbols. Okay, can we get the left visuals of the temple on our screens, please? Let's just blow them up. Thank you. The visuals of the temple. My PCR crew is struggling in the morning. Yeah, there we have it. Okay, I want to show the symbols at the base, at the bottom. Okay. Now they'll be familiar to any Indian. You have the symbol of Om, okay, and you have the symbol of the swastika. Okay. Now let me start with the scientific bent of mind of the symbol of the Om. Okay. Now what is Om, ladies and gentlemen, really telling you? The Om, when you say it and you hold the is supposed to be a vibration. All right. It's about connecting with a vibration, and it's supposed to be a very calming vibration for the human spirit and the human mind. A lot of science can be done behind this. But here we are, sir, and we now are discussing that the entire physicality of the universe is based on vibrations. You have string theory and M theory that are telling you that every particle is simply based upon vibrations. Okay. But right next to that you have the swastika. Now the swastika is recognizable in many Indian homes all across the world, but it has been misappropriated, because if I go to Europe wearing a swastika on my t-shirt, I get arrested. So you lost the symbolism, you lost what it was. It's been exappropriated and misappropriated by others, and you lost your understanding, Group Captain Jha. So this is when I say renaissance, renewal, re-identification, does it necessarily require us to reimagine all these things?
Look, any time that anyone has tried to exploit his own sort of thought process or impose his own thought process to the others, to the exploitation of humanity, he will vanish. And swastika, if a small group in Europe was trying to symbolize, swastika is far more than a small, bunch of people using it. Swastika is far more than it. Anytime that we have a festival in our homes, I know I have lived my childhood in the villages, and on the doors of our house, those swastika marks used to be created in all those festivals, and those were the signs of goodwill, some good thing happening. Om, you say, Om goes much far deep into it. People may not know about it because we have forgotten about it, because we have been prevented from the practices of those traditions that the Om used to create. So those things have happened. I'm glad now Ram Temple is here now. People will be going just to sit there and feel the vibrations of the new sort of vibe all around them. It will be a new force. We know that whenever there was a power, there was a incarnation. कहते हैं ना कि किसी के पास में 12 कला थी, किसी के पास में 14 और किसी के पास में 16. तो 16 कला से जो परिपूर्ण थे भगवान कृष्ण, जब आप वहां पे जाओगे, जब उनके जन्म स्थान में जाओगे, तो एक अलग अनुभूति होगी. और 12 कला से परिपूर्ण श्री राम, जो कि पुरुषोत्तम हैं, the greatest among the human man. So you are going to feel vibes when you sit at that temple and just feel that what you are, what is our ancients, not ancient.
All right. Okay. So now, as you know, if you've been watching NewsX for the past few days, we've been telling you how the story of the Ramayana is told pretty much all over Southeast Asia, right? From Indonesia to Thailand to Laos and Cambodia. Okay. But let me rephrase the question and ask it to General Sudhakar. General Sudhakar, now you and I, since childhood, are very familiar with the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And this was a chivalrous order. We are now intelligent enough and old enough to know that it comes rooted in the Christian faith. They are knights. The very word knight is from the Knights Templar. So, but it is told to us that this is a story of good and evil, about morality and good manners and good ethics and, all the chivalrous codes. A modern generation has grown up with the story of, I'll give you an example, ladies and gentlemen. The Lord of the Rings. Okay. The evil always rises in the east. Okay. The elves and all the good things and all the places of light are all in the west. And the dark Sauron and Mordor are all in the east. Okay, this is a modern day epic. In Game of Thrones, it's Westeros. All right. So we are familiar with the modern day fictional epics, even the ancient stories, and King Arthur's story dates back to probably Romano-Britain. So you're talking about Ambrosius Aurelianus is what it probably dates back to. But equivalent, people all over the world will not have really known the story of Ram and its equivalency. How do we change that?
Rishabh, very well put. I must, I admire your depth of knowledge in every subject and especially what you have just articulated. There are ways and means. India has started in earnest, and I personally feel that a lot is being done, but it is not being publicized. In 2022, I happened to be there in Dallas in a stadium. There are 2,000 young children who are reciting Bhagavad Gita, all 18 chapters. Over, I think, if I'm not wrong, it lasted for almost about 7 days. If a thing like this can take place in Dallas, similarly, when I went to a small village, I'm forgetting the name of the, I think it's in Hungary, on Lord Krishna. A lot of things are happening in minuscule. Now we need to consolidate, we need to make a very organized, coherent kind of a structure as far as India. India is not all about India itself. Our very concept of our nation state or India as a nation is global. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a concept that every citizen, every living organism in this universe is part and parcel, and we are responsible for. We are supposed to be taking care of each and every one. The very concept of life of Sanatan is based on dedicating our life for others. So, like yesterday, I was talking to somebody, Afghanistan Sunni Muslim lady who's a doctor, migrated to California. She was teaching me what is Sanatani Dharma. Okay, and in one of the channels, so I had to bow down. I said, yes, ma'am. What she told me is that Sanatan Dharma is not truth and justice. Sanatan Dharma is, it has no beginning, it has got no end. And it is a dharma in which it encompasses every component, whether it is Christian or Muslim or everyone.
Yeah.
Like Sumit very rightly brought out. So therefore, we need to actually put our acts together. India as a nation state needs to take the entire global aspiration and teach in different mediums and methods, whether it is digital or electronic or by print media. We need to actually undertake a mission-oriented, objective-oriented
No,
task.
it's a rediscovery, and we all have to, like I said, share in the rediscovery. Progress, ladies and gentlemen, is not a straight line. And I took this example at the very beginning of the telecast. All right. You had the Dark Ages in Europe, and it's the easiest example because you're all familiar with the Dark Ages in Europe because you've studied them, okay? You read them in school here in India, let alone all over the world, all right? Classical Roman civilization, Greek civilization declines. Medieval Europe is a messy place, which is very ugly. And then a Renaissance takes place. The Renaissance takes place primarily in Italy. And they rediscover the classics, they rediscover the engineering, they rediscover the design and the art and the sculpture. And in that rediscovery, then comes the rediscovery of science. Because the same artists like Da Vinci become the engineers of the future. And then you get the Newtons and you have a scientific revolution that takes place simultaneously. It all begins with the rediscovery of the classics, and you're observing that taking place in India, and it's the best way I can correlate this to anybody who's watching the broadcast in India and abroad, because you've all heard of the Renaissance, and this story will have to be told. I'm going to thank General Sudhakar for joining us in the broadcast. I'm going to take a quick break, but before that, let me invite Himanshu Bhatt is joining us this morning. Himanshu ji, very good morning to you as well. I'm told Group Captain UK Devnath is also with us. Group Captain Devnath, good morning to you. Sumit, let me quickly come back to you. So just on the thrust, and let me hit on the swastika. Okay. Now, like it or not, we know that the Nazi Party in Germany sent an expedition to the Himalayas, to Tibet. These were unexplored. Today you have satellite maps and all that, but these were unexplored, where you have to physically go and visit and map these places. And they sent an expedition, and the expedition was a racist expedition. It was meant to find the father race. Okay. Then they took the word Aryan, okay, and turned it into something ugly and nasty. They took the swastika and they modified it a little bit and made it perhaps the most nefarious and infamous symbols in the world. That was the Nazis. The swastika was there long before them. So just as an example, it has been misappropriated. Does that mean now you and I can never use it?
Rishabh, not at all, because what Nazis did, they are responsible for their deeds, and it's what we call a Hagenkreuz or a crooked cross. It is different from swastika. Swastika has been in existence till time immemorial. Nazis came and went. Swastika continues to be there. They use a distorted form of swastika. Even it is believed that when Mao attacked India, and Mao was interested in Himalayas because somebody told him there's something called Shangri-La which exists, and if you reach there, you will become immortal. That is one of the reasons why he was looking for Himalayas, because he believed there's a Shangri-La there. And Indians have these 8 Chiranjeevis, and the concept of Chiranjeevis was so strong with him, he decided to invade Himalayas, and that was the reason. Germans came here looking for the roots of the civilization. Now, the latest excavations in India said that we are at least scientifically more than 10,000-15,000 years old. But the Sabhyata is more than 1 lakh years old. That is what we are. And what we have predicted as a civilization is what today $1 billion NASA satellites are predicting. Our 30 rupee Panchang can exactly tell you in January how many eclipses are going to happen and what time. NASA will tell you 1 month before using $1 billion satellite, and that too from last 30 years. Whereas our Panchangs have been doing that for thousands of years, and we have been getting it right to the dot. If it was not a science, then how come it is accurate? If it was an art or it was a hypothesis, you could not get it right all the time. So that science was buried, that thing was killed. And let me tell you, sir, this, Muhammad Ghazni, when he went to the Somnath temple, he saw Shivlinga was floating and rotating. When he was told, we will give you 1 lakh Swarna Mudras, leave the Shivlinga, he wanted to break it because he had never seen something which was floating and revolving. He said, if this thing goes out to the whole world, then the mother or the cradle of civilization will not be Greece or anywhere else. Yeah. It will be Bharat. So he decided to break it. He said, Khuda jab mujhe puchega, tu Budh Shikan tha ya Budh Parast, I want to be known as Budh Shikan. So forget 1 crore Swarna Mudras, I'll still break it. The myth we are given, he was here to loot and plunder. No, loot and plunder was the byproduct.
No, but like I said, this is a routine pattern in history. It's not unique to a Ghazni, it's not unique to the subcontinent. It's a routine pattern in history, which is why I said progress is not a straight line.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.